Here comes a new challenger!
Hello everyone and welcome to another Smash analysis, and in this one we're going to be looking at Mii Swordfighter. I already did one on Brawler, I did one on Gunner, and now allow me to do it on the worst one of the trio, being Swordfighter. Now I understand if this one doesn't get much respect, because unfortunately he is a very linear character. He's not a character that you'll get a lot of respect for, because Mii Swordfighter is basically a gimmick at the end of the day, because a strong gimmick, sure, but heavily reliant on it, I would say. Now, I should stress with the Smash Analysis series, this is my own personal take on the characters, and of course, if there's a main there that would like to enlighten me on some things, then sure, go ahead, but this is my own personal view. And of course, we have two different sets here. One that mainly uses 1-1-1, because haha funny, Aerith downward stab, you can probably guess what that's a reference to. But we are going to be talking about why a lot of Mii Swordfighter's customs are very limited in a lot of ways, and why, out of all the Mii's, probably the least customizable and the least unique. As well, unique, it's not that down, but unique in the sense of there's not really a lot you can do with the character as far as I'm aware. It's basically just the same motions over and over and over again, hoping for a different result of which you will not get. But hey, it is what it is, right? So, let's talk about it. Mii Swordfighter, in my opinion, like I said, is the weakest of all the Mii's. How weak? Well, in my opinion, I think Mii Swordfighter is a low tier, whereas with Gunner, I would say is a high tier. In my opinion, Brawler is a top tier. The reason why I think Swordfighter is just a worse off character is primarily due to the normals. The normals, they may seem fine for a Swordfighter, but this is butter knife. His highest damaging move is his up air. Alright? Like, that's pretty much it. The up air is the strongest part of the kit. Alright, I had to fix my controls there for a second. I think the sweet spot does like 20? 17, around there, yeah. I think probably does a bit more. But, this is a very strong kill move. It does a lot of damage. It hits, and, it's got a pretty good poking range. But that's generally how this character is, a bait and punish zoner, because yes, despite being a swordsman, I would say that this character is more of a zoner than the actual zoner, you know what I mean? Because he's heavily reliant on ledge trapping and other such tools. Now, we have Shuriken of Light. Now, Shuriken of Light, as it's not on either of these Mii's, but I do want to talk about it. It's essentially a Falco Fox Laser mix. The reason why I say it's a mix is because from a distance, it's stronger and actually has knockback. Not really knockback, but it makes your opponent, flinch. Whereas when it gets super close, it's basically a Fox Laser. It does little to no damage and doesn't flinch at all. And that, my friends, is a terrible projectile. Sure, on Wi-Fi, it's going to be annoying to deal with, because then, you're just throwing shurikens of lights everywhere, boom, bam, boom. And it is pretty spammable, but once your opponent gets in, it's not like you can really use it. So what is your main tool? Well, you have Chakram, but Chakram in itself is, it's good, but it's not that good. It suffers the same thing as the Mecha Koopa, where if you shield it, then it bounces off. No problem. So even though you have things like this, it's very sensitive, the tilt thing. But even though you have things like that, right, where you can just toss it out and then combo off of it, then there you go, you can do stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty good for ledge trapping. I would say okay at ledge trapping, because you can't angle it down. If you try angling it down, it just bounces down. You could try doing something like that, but because the best part of the hitbox is where it's basically stationary for a bit, then you're not really going to get much off of it. So you just gotta hope that your opponent doesn't wait at ledge. But if they wait at ledge, obviously you can go for this. But if they drop down from ledge, then I'll just throw another one. But do you really think that will work? No? Yikes. And obviously we're gonna get more into this move in a little bit later. But overall, when it comes to those two customs specifically, Chakram and the Shuriken of Light, Shuriken of Light is pretty but you have Chakram, which is pretty good. But what about the other two options, your other two side B options? Well, you essentially have a Ike-like move, and it's pretty good in terms of kill power and distance. but I definitely would not recommend it, because if your opponent shields it, well, you're going to be wide open for a punish, and, well, using it as recovery, it's not like Ike's where you could just use it again if you get a hit or anything like that. It's not really the best. I used to use it a lot before, but it's definitely not the go-to for what you want. And if you want to have a side B for recovery, then you have the one that's like a spin sort of move. It's good, but if you don't press anything, you'll be put in helpless, so you gotta jump or do something to avoid being put in helpless, so therefore you can use your up B. I've had times where that thing's put me in helpless for no reason. I don't know, it's very weird. But if you want to use a recovery side B, then that's your only other option, because your up Bs are not the greatest. So of course we have this up B, which goes a fair few distance. It doesn't really kill or anything like that, but hey, you know, it's good for getting to ledge. And it's pretty annoying sometimes, you know, when your opponent tries to edge guard you and they get knocked up by that. You have the Link type up B, which is good for finishing off a combo with this, and then you have the one that Aerith here has, which just plain out sucks. I mean, alright, that hit. Alright, now let's try using it from here. Alright. Pretty good, pretty good. But now, I believe it's something like this, or, gosh, it's pretty hard to show when I can only have one other person. Maybe it'd be a lot easier if I just mash jump everywhere. Essentially, the thing doesn't really have much of a horizontal hitbox. Like there it is. So, it doesn't really have that much of a horizontal hitbox, where moves like Mii Brawler Soaring Axe Kick pretty much does. It has a hitbox going all the way up, and another hitbox going all the way down. Whereas with this one, it has a hitbox starting, but not when it goes all the way up, and the same applies when it's going down. The hitbox isn't so spectacular. So this up B, I mean, I guess it's okay. It does have invincibility, but it's not the greatest. And when you have to factor in your opponent's DI, you essentially have to chase him with that, but it's not like the scabbard part is guaranteed, so you essentially have to, you know, hit them again. It's not good. It's definitely not good. I just gave it to her because, well, you played FF7, right? So, really, when it comes to it, mediocre up Bs all around. I mean, like I said, this one's pretty good for your opponent just, like, not really dealing with you, right? You just want them away from you. It is pretty fast, all things considered, and I would argue this is probably the best out of the up Bs if you're looking for recovery, and a good move in general. Hero Spin is not a really good recovery. It's only good as a finisher for, well, this. But we'll get to that. Down B. Your only down B options are a reflector. So there's that. There's a counter, which is honestly a pretty good counter, all things considered. It doesn't act like other counters. What it does is that it basically stuns your opponent and sends them upward. And then you have a Falcon Kick type move. However, burst, you know, getting in your opponent is definitely not what you want to do. Sure, you could use that as a burst option, but it's not as good as Falcon Kick is. It's not as threatening. So when it comes to it, I definitely wouldn't recommend that one. And Counter Reflector, it's up to you. This counter acts more like Mario Cape. I mean, Counter Reflector. This one acts more like Mario Cape, where it turns them around. So there you go. So if you wanted to know that, then, well, have at you. So there's that. For your neutral B options, you have the Tornado, which I showed off, Shuriken of Light, but you also have it's sort of like Marth's Shield Breaker, multi-hitting move. This time around, though, it's okay. It's definitely not the best. And overall, I would argue that out of all their moves, and if we're talking about synergy, the one I have on my Mii Swordfighter is probably your best bet. Now, this down B you could change for the reflector or the counter, but for the most part, this is what you're mainly going to be using, this is what you're mainly going to be using, and this or Hero Spin is what you're mainly going to be using. And the reason why is because a lot of your kit basically revolves around your projectiles. You're a zoner, after all, not a swordy, a zoner. Because your sword is a butter knife. It is literally a pull noodle. You know, people thought Roy's sword in Melee was a pull noodle. Well, this is pull noodle, but is more effective. So, so when it comes to it, Swordfighter sword is definitely not the greatest. In terms of range, it's okay. Most other swordies would definitely have an easier time, let's put it that way, be it with their own limbs or the actual sword. Like I mentioned, this is probably one of your best tools. This is a good down tilt, but it's not like, you know, it's good, but it's definitely be a bit better. I would much prefer to send straight up instead of an angle. That's 1,000,000% sure. Up tilt's okay. it's good for comboing into itself, but you should stress that it's definitely still could use some work. Maybe speed up the frame data a little bit, just a little bit, because this character feels like he has slow frame data for no reason, along with wanky hitboxes that are also small and not really that damage dealing, if I do say so myself. So, you know, like I said, normals aren't so great. In terms of throws, your best throw is really down throw, because down throw allows you to combo into your up air, which, like I said, kills, and as you saw, it does a lot of damage. So, one thing people do is something like that. You know, pretty good damage. You know, it's true. You get the down throw, you get some damage. Bada boom. Congratulations, you did some damage. Alright, you did the damage. You know, you can also go for a raw back air. I think you can also go for a forward air. So, you know, down throw, really good throw, especially at even higher percents, where at higher percents, it actually acts as some sort of a 50-50, I guess you could say. Think of Smash 4's throws. But, well, you know, with Swordfighter, of course, where as long as you're able to read their DI, you're able to catch them with your up air, or something like that. You know, I'm definitely not the best Swordfighter main, so you're definitely not going to see me doing that, but if you catch them slipping, then they could die, right? And you can also do stuff like landing up air into up air, as an example. Something like that. Definitely a good move, but like I said, it's an over-reliance on one tool such as this. This is your other method of killing, and preferably you want to use this at ledge. Why do you want to use it at ledge? Well, very simple, alright? If you use it at ledge, boom, and then you combo off of it. I didn't even bother running, what's the point? You catch someone with this, you up air them, or you use hero spin, you get the kill, yada yada. You understand the point. It's rinse and repeat all over again, in which this character's whole point is to essentially win neutral multiple times in order to win. Now, that is not to say that this isn't good-ish strategy. I mean, you could definitely do good with this character if you're playing against low-level players, mid-level, you know, catch them off guard with a gimmick. They don't know how to really deal with it, but once you really learn how to deal with Mii Swordfighter, you get around it, then, well, it's no longer an issue. I mean, Wi-Fi definitely helps out this character because because of the delay on Wi-Fi, it's much harder to react to what a lot of Mii Swordfighter will do, but ultimately, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. A lot of Mii Swordfighter's moves could just be countered with a simple press of a button, and has to rely on gimmicks, essentially, to hope and take the stock. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that's why I feel this character is so weak. I think this character could do a lot more if he was designed to be a swordy than he is a, well, zoner, because that's what he feels like. Gunner is supposed to be the ultimate zoner compared to the other two, and yet this character feels right up there. Not the best, definitely not better than Gunner, but at the very least, I feel like this character's whole thing is just distancing and hoping for that hit, for that good hit, you know? But it's not like you're really going to be pressuring with a lot of these tools. Frame data is not the greatest, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just holding shield for a lot of these. This one's fast. This one, alright, pretty good. This one's pretty slow. Obviously, smash attacks are another thing, you know, in terms of speed and frame data, though I feel that even the other Miis have better smash attacks than this guy does, and I don't even feel like these killed as good as those. Definitely not as good. The idea is that he's supposed to have range, but I would argue that a Brawler, for instance, has more range. Definitely feels like it. I feel like this character can't really move, but Gunner can move. Brawler can move. This character's just like all average, you know, pretty good speed, has pretty good movement. You know, he definitely could do a lot worse. But ultimately, when it comes to Mii Swordfighters, there's not much to say other than he's a very linear designed character, and that is very unfortunate. I think that out of all the Miis, Swordfighter definitely needs buffs. None of the other two need nerfs. This one just needs buffs, and I feel that, you know, that trifecta might do a lot better. I think the issue here, in my opinion, is that Swordfighter needs a new goal, something different, I would say. Because again, he's a zoner when he shouldn't be. He's supposed to be a sort of keep away, you know, keeping his distance away poking you, doing all this sort of stuff, and yet he feels like a zoner. He feels like a setup character. He doesn't feel like a swordie. You know, even other characters that don't heavily rely on their sword, such as like the Lynx, for instance, feel more like swordies than he does. You know, or whatever the case may be when it comes to other characters. Me personally, I hope that this character gets buffed, because I really do like Swordfighter. There's a lot to like about this character, but ultimately, if you plan to take him to a tournament, you're not really going to do that incredibly well unless you just win neutral all the time. And you can't always rely on that. It's like saying that, well, yeah, Roy can win a major in Melee, but you have to basically win 10 to 11 neutral interactions to do so, and you're not always going to be able to do that unless you're a really skilled player like Zane. So, ultimately, hopefully this character gets buffed. That's the moral of this message, story, whatever the case may be. The analysis. I want Mii Swordfighter to become a very strong character, because even though I know not a lot of people like the Miis, I do feel the Miis do get a lot of flack for what they are, and I do think that out of all of them, just give him a chance. Except this guy, until he gets buffed, don't really give him a chance. His only benefit, honestly, is that he has diamond armor. You guys like diamond armor, right? I like diamond armor. So there you go. That's pretty much it. Very linear character. Hope he gets buffed. That's basically it. That's the TLDR. Because otherwise, he's kind of cool. Can be cool, but he's not designed to be cool. Unfortunate. Like, I wouldn't even say his ledge trapping is all that great. If your ledge trapping only relies on one of two things, that all my opponent has to do is just get up and block, and I don't have to worry about a shield break setup or anything like that, then, what's the point? What is the point? So yeah, hopefully this character gets buffed, because I would love to go to Elite Smash with this Aerith that I made, fight a Sephiroth, and just show him what's for. Okay, with that all being said, I hope you guys take care of yourselves. It's been quite a pleasure making these, and I really hope that you enjoy them. I do plan on making more, of course, until I get through the entire roster. At that point, after I do get through the entire roster, I'll only update my thoughts if I feel like I need to, such as with Meta Knight, as I do want to update that Meta Knight video. For whatever reason, is my most popular one out of all these analysis. Guess a lot of people really like Meta Knight. I don't know why, but I guess they do. Sure. Next episode, though, I'm probably going to head into Kirby, as I personally feel Kirby is a very weird character, and I just want to talk about it. With that all being said, take care of yourselves, have a great rest of your day, please be safe out there, it really means a lot to me, and you know what to do. Let's try to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the year. Come on, you know you want to. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!
Partner, we can do this right. You're the fire, I'm the wind tonight. Burning dread, haha, that's right.